Good morning. I would like to introduce you to Emma Kring. She is the new CWD Outreach Coordinator for the southeast portion of the state. And we'd like to discuss a little bit about some awareness and resources that you may want to look into in the future in regards to chronic wasting disease. I'm Marla Mertz, the naturalist for Marion County, and know that it's a concern for us here in this community. And let's let Emma go ahead and visit about what you can expect with CWD in Marion County and other southeastern portions of the county. So Emma, what does CWD stand for and what is it?
So CWD stands for chronic wasting disease, and that is essentially capturing the length and time of the disease. This is a disease that is classified as a TSE, or a transmissible spongiform encephalopathy, and essentially what that means is it's a disease of your brain, and it causes spongy-like appearance in the brain. And then the chronic portion of our disease means it's long-term. And other TSEs that this disease falls under, people might know as Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease in humans. We also have bovine spongiform encephalopathy, or mad cow disease, that affects cattle. And then there's other ones like Kuru or transmissible mink encephalopathy. So this is a branch of diseases that are caused by prions, which are a protein primarily found in your brain. They are found in all animal species, especially even in humans, but the deer disease that we're talking about today is CWD. So this primarily affects members of the deer family. So here in Iowa, that's white-tailed deer, but it can also affect mule deer, elk, moose, and caribou here in North America.
Well, Emma, can the deer populations recover from this disease at all?
So CWD is a 100% fatal disease, and that's true for all prion diseases, not just CWD. So once a deer gets it, they will die from it. It's just a matter of when, and if CWD is going to be its ultimate reason for dying, or if it's a secondary reason. Potentially, does the CWD slow it down enough to get hit by the car, to be the deer that gets harvested, within a group. But once it's in a population, there's research coming out of especially Wyoming that's suggesting that deer populations will start to see a decline over time, long term. We're thinking long term here. So it's slow to start, but if we aren't out there monitoring this disease, if we're not out there actively managing for it, it can eventually start to decline the deer population.
Oh, wow. So how is CWD transmitted?
So CWD is transmitted primarily through two different ways. The first one, that is probably the more common way of transmission, is direct contact. And there we're thinking nose to nose, or through grooming behaviors, or any way that deer are coming in contact with one another. The other way that they can get CWD from these prions is the indirect method, or what we like to call the environmental transmission. And this is where the prions themselves are actually deposited into the soil. And ways that this can happen is through different excretions, so through saliva, through urine, through feces, any way that this can get put into the environment. A very common source of this would be things like a mineral lick or feeding stations, where deer will all come up and congregate at one point, and they'll deposit these prions in their saliva, and then the next deer comes up behind them, and then they lick the same mineral block. They're in that same area, and they're coming in contact with those prions in the environment.
So using mineral blocks probably isn't a very positive thing when it comes to this disease.
Yeah, it's something we like to discourage the use of, especially in forested areas where deer are going to be more likely occurring. And if possible, we like to encourage removing those mineral blocks, but then coming in and also putting some sort of deterrent over that area where the mineral block was, because we know that the minerals can leach into the soil and just stick around for years to come. Very similar to the prions themselves.
Okay. So how long does it take for the deer to show symptoms of CWD?
So once the deer becomes infected, or day zero of infection, it takes about 1 month for us to start to be able to detect this disease in their lymph nodes. But after 3 months post-infection, they can start to shed these prions in those excretions that we talked about through the urine, through saliva, and through feces. But from that 3 months on to about 18 months, 36 months, or if we're thinking 1.5 to 3 years, that's in time when we're not going to see the disease. They're out there shedding these prions into the environment, they're transmitting it to the other deer, but we physically won't see signs of the disease. But till about that 18 to 36 months, then they might actually start to develop signs of those disease. And typical signs of disease would include neurological behaviors, and I think that's the one that people really associate with this disease. They might have stumbling, loss of coordination, they might just look like they're malnourished, kind of like that wasting away form of the disease. They might have excessive salivation, excessive urination, and then just kind of loss of sense. They just don't know where they are, they're potentially isolated, they're stuck. We say they could be stuck in a field, mostly because they don't understand how to get out of that field or out of that weird place. So it's amazing. It's really 1.5 to 3 years after infection we'll actually start to see signs of disease.
That's a long time.
Yes, it's a very long time, but between the 3 months and then up to that 1.5 to 3 years, they're out there actively spreading the prions around to other deer.
What can Iowans do to help this situation out or be more aware of what we can do?
Yeah, so there's a couple different things that everybody can do, not just people that hunt or people that own land. Everybody can be out there really just making sure they have the best awareness and education of this disease. The Iowa DNR has a great page. It's called the CWD Dashboard Surveillance page. It's on their hunting tab, and this has 4 tabs on it. And the first one just shows you broad overall statistics of what the DNR is doing as far as their sampling efforts. And it shows all the counties, it shows where we've had all our detections so far. But then if you move to the second tab, you can track what we're doing for that year. So how many samples we've had so far, how many positive detections we've had so far, and you can see where it is by scrolling in on the map. And you can get down to a section on the county. And then the other 2 tabs really just break down the sex and age class statistics of our positive detections, which is really cool, especially if you like to sort of see more of the data side of it all. And then the 4th tab just breaks it down historically, so since 2002 when we started our sampling efforts. So that's a really great resource for anyone that just wants to know about it, but also for our hunters that are going out into these areas and saying, okay, I'm gonna go to this area, has it had a detection? If it has, how many? And then sampling quotas, can I still get my deer sampled by the DNR if they haven't met their quota yet? Another great way is to really just foster these relationships that we have as the DNR with our hunters, but also with our landowners. Because Iowa is, really 1% public ground, this is a thing that we're going to do with the landowners and with our hunters together. So, and as a DNR, we really know that hunting is our best management tool for this disease. And we would like to work with the hunters to help us do this and be as transparent as possible with the sampling that we're doing and where the disease is. And partnering with our hunters is not only going to help us manage the tool or manage the CWD, but it's also going to help us get samples that we need to understand the disease prevalence on the landscape. And this is especially important in our new areas that we have detections. And then again, landowners, by allowing folks to have access to their property, especially for antlerless harvest. Reducing antlerless densities on your property will help reduce the probability of CWD transmission within those local herds that you have on the property. So those tools all combined together really are what we can all do together as Iowans for helping to manage and mitigate CWD.
Sure. So since you are the new CWD outreach coordinator, what does that allow you to do for the communities of the southeastern portion of the state, maybe when it does come hunting season and things like that?
So yes, as my role, I'm here to bring sort of the understanding of what we have here in the DNR, but to act as a resource for my community and for the folks here, both hunters, landowners, and just recreational users of this resource. Deer are, one of the greatest resources we have here in Iowa, and I think everyone really appreciates that resource. So my position here is to help foster awareness of this disease, especially in areas that haven't had a detection yet. because I think we're trying to be more proactive about this. You know, let's help people learn about the disease before it comes to the area, and that's really our best method for helping to prevent the spread of the disease. Because once it's here, it can be very, very difficult, if not impossible, to just get rid of.
Right. So Marion County itself has not had a detection, is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, it still has not had a detection as of this past hunting season, but the North County of Jasper County had their first detection this past hunting season.
Okay. Yeah, that's too bad that we've got a lot of this going on with our natural resources. There seems to be a lot of different things that are occurring in our community. Well, thank you, Emma, very much for taking the time to visit with us today. It's nice to learn a little bit about what you're going to be doing and how we can all help in our community. So thanks again. Thanks for watching.